How to gain muscle and shed fat simultaneously. 5 steps. The big debate. To bulk or to cut first? Well, what if I told you there's a method that doesn't make you choose? The holy grail of fitness is to be able to lose fat and also to be able to build muscle at the same time. The shortcut. Instead of having to go through a cycle of cutting and bulking, what if I told you that you can achieve both at the same time without going through these repetitive cycles? If you watch this video till the very end, I'm gonna show you exactly what you need to do to achieve this no matter where you are. Hi, my name is Dr. Michael Diamonds and I'm the founder of Sculpt by Science. I've coached hundreds of people towards building muscle and losing fat. I've done this myself a number of times, over and over and over again. But there's more to the story. Many times it hasn't been about dropping pounds only. I've taken clients on transformative journeys of body recomposition where they've simultaneously built muscle and lost fat. This is an area I'm all too familiar with. Meet my client Tori. He came in with just wanting a six-pack and we took it all the way to becoming a men's physique champ. David travels every week and he crushes body recomposition, and Wayne, the list goes on. So the next question is, does this apply to everyone? Well, it applies to a majority of the people, and let's divide them into 4 categories. Category 1, the beginner. For a beginner, the body responds to the new stimulus rapidly. It is known as newbie gains, where your capacity to build muscle is at its peak, even if you don't have the greatest genetics. Category 2, the obese. That's if you're 25% and above. If you also have more body fat than you need, then you have a unique advantage. With the right combination of resistance training and the perfect nutrition, it's possible to shed that unwanted fat and build muscle simultaneously. The fat actually becomes a source of energy to achieve this. Category 3, the suboptimal trainee. A good majority of people go through their lifting career under eating protein and fall short when it comes to their nutrition, and this will affect their progression at the gym. It's almost like they're investing so much money in something they're okay with taking half of the profit off of the table. This is the case with most of my clients. I did this with Tori, I did it with David, I did it with Wayne, Omar, Tyrell, and the list is endless. All of these guys had one factor in common. They work extremely hard, and that's why they're successful in their careers. They're busy professional entrepreneurs, they're business owners, leaders in their industry. And if you want to achieve a similar transformation and you're ready to double your energy level, cut your body fat percentage in half, and you're serious, if you want to work with me directly, you can apply in the description of this video below. Pause the video, take a minute, fill that out to the best of your ability, and we'll get you the same results. Category 4, I consider someone who is detrained. This group brings a personal touch to me. There are people who have taken a break from training due to injury or other life commitments. I personally stopped training for nearly 6 months because of an injury, but we'll talk about this category at the end. The truth is, the more advanced you get with training, the harder it gets, but body recomposition remains possible even with well-trained athletes. In a 2011 study, 24 highly trained athletes reduced their caloric intake by 20%. While in a caloric deficit, they did strength training 4 times a week and still managed to increase their muscle mass by 2% while losing fat. There is a category 5, but we don't need to touch on that because we don't use anabolics. So the question is, how can both happen together? The scenario has always been, to gain muscle mass, you need to be in a caloric surplus, eating more calories than your body needs. To lose fat, you need to be in a caloric deficit, eating fewer calories than you burn. You can't have them happen together. But gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time is absolutely possible because muscle and fat tissue are different functional compartments of the body. Therefore, our body allocates calories to muscle and fat separately. Scientists refer to this process as calorie distribution or nutrient partitioning. The phenomenon of calorie distribution provides a foundation for the concept of body recomposition. It allows our body to strategically work on gaining muscle and shedding fat at the same time. Think of it as a sophisticated energy management system where the body directs nutrients towards muscle repair and growth while also tapping into fat reserves for its daily energy needs under the right circumstances. Now here's where the concept of calorie distribution comes into play. Even when you're consuming enough nutrients to support muscle growth, if there's a net energy deficit, your body can simultaneously use stored fat as an energy source. This is because the body recognizes that the distinct needs of muscle mass and fat tissue can allocate its energy resources accordingly. This is how our body works. It adapts and prioritizes based on the demands and the nutrients provided to it. But how can we make our body do this allocation? You have to give it the right circumstances in order for this to happen. We'll go over the 4 main steps, and the last one is the step most people don't get right. So let's get into it. Step number 1, resistance training. This is our main stimulus for calorie allocation to happen, because building muscle and burning fat at the same time is not just about calories. As long as the stimulus for muscle growth is carefully designed and customized, your muscles have means to get bigger without a calorie surplus. This brings us to the main subject, muscle protein synthesis, which is the process our body uses to build and repair our muscles, especially after we exercise. Let me explain simply. When you hit the gym and train heavily, you're creating micro tears in your muscles, and this is how you get stronger and more muscular. After you finish your workout, your body needs to repair these micro tears to grow the muscle and then stimulate the muscle protein synthesis. Now, in the opposite side, we have a process called muscle protein breakdown. It's when our body breaks down muscle tissue. These two processes co-occur 24/7 in your body, from birth until the day you die. When your muscle protein synthesis exceeds your muscle protein breakdown, you are in a positive protein balance. Your muscle mass increases. When your breakdown exceeds your synthesis, you enter a state of negative protein balance, leading to a loss of muscle mass. That increase is not dependent on calories. In fact, the most powerful way to boost your muscle protein synthesis is by lifting weights. It can ramp up muscle protein synthesis for as long as 24 hours. But of course, training progressively is essential for you to aim to increase your muscle mass. Simply put, progressively training means gradually increasing your weight or volume of your exercise to challenge your muscles continuously. While there isn't a one-size-fits-all method for body weight composition, this is the few recommendations. Aim to complete between 10 to 20 sets for each muscle group per week. Current studies suggest that this is the ideal volume for promoting muscle growth. More advanced trainees might need to lean towards the higher end, while beginners can benefit from the lower end of the range. Incorporate a mix of compound and isolation exercises in your routine. Fundamental movements like the bench press, the squat provide a solid base and are time efficient, whereas isolation exercises allow for targeted training or specific muscles. Perform 6 to 15 repetitions per set. Even though muscle development is possible with both fewer and more reps, the middle range seems to be the sweet spot for a majority of the lifters. As for the detrained individuals, the silver lining is muscle memory. Because of these memory nuclei in your muscle fibers, once you start training again, your muscle rebuilds at a much quicker rate than someone who's never trained before. It's as if your muscles remember the previous state and it's eager to get back there. Alongside, strength also tends to return more quickly. Speaking from my own experience, when I finally returned to the gym within weeks, not only did I notice visible growth, but the weights that once seemed very heavy began to feel manageable and even familiar. So to any of you out there, if you're feeling hesitant about returning to training, knowing that you have this unique advantage in muscle memory, don't be afraid to step back into the gym and restart your routine. Awesome, so if you're watching this video at this point, I know you're very serious and you want to be able to build muscle and lose fat. In the next 24 hours, I will be giving you your macros and calories in the comment section down below to be able to build muscle and lose fat. All you need to do is do 2 things. Number 1, comment down below your age, weight, height, your gender, and how many times you're going to train. Also, if you know, let me know your body fat percentage and let me know that, hey Mike, I want to build muscle and lose fat, and I will tell you what calories and macros you need to follow. The second thing you need to do is just leave the video the gentle thumbs up. That is all I ask in return. But let's go on to the next step. Step number 2, the caloric intake. This step is as important as your resistance training, and how many calories you should eat really depends on your current body fat and your main goal. So first, calculate what your maintenance calories are, which is the amount of calories your body needs to stay at the current weight. Then you need to decide which one is more important to you right now, gaining muscle or losing fat. After you've decided this, then you'll need to calculate how many calories to cut or add. The basics are, if you're in a caloric surplus, it is easier to gain muscle and strength compared to maintenance and being in a deficit. And if you're in a caloric deficit, it's harder to gain muscle, but it's possible. So I'll now explain what your goal should be based on your body fat percentage. If you're in the higher end of body fat percentage scale, that's if you're between 15 to 25 body fat percentage for men and 25 to 30% body fat for women, or above, it is recommended you prioritize fat loss to be in a caloric deficit. So we need to create a 10% to 20% caloric deficit and lose fat slowly. The trick here is to lose the fat as slowly as possible so you don't hit a metabolic plateau. Here's an example. If you're 200 pounds, you're 30 years old, and you want to prioritize fat loss, he's at 25% body fat, given he trains 4 to 5 times a week, his maintenance calories should be around 2,760. And since he has a high body fat percentage, it's better to stick to the upper end of the equation, which is creating a 20% caloric deficit. And that will come around 2,200 calories a day. Let's say this man was around 50% body fat. A 10% caloric deficit would be enough. You don't need to worry if you can sustain a consistent lifting program. Your body will be able to pull from fat stores to both fuel itself and potentially build muscle mass. 2. If you're on the lower end of that body fat percentage scale, that is, if you're between 10 to 12% body fat for men and 18 to 22% body fat for women, it's recommended to prioritize muscle gain and be in a slight caloric surplus between 5 to 25%. Which end you stick to depends on how lean you are. The leaner you are, the bigger the surplus you can make. Consider a man who's roughly at 170 pounds, 28 years old, with a body fat percentage of 10%. He's training 4 to 5 times a week. As he's at 10% body fat, his primary goal should be muscle gain. Thus, a caloric surplus is necessary. His maintenance calories is around 2,700. So we can create a 20% caloric surplus, and this will be around 3,100 calories. This is an important consideration because when you're in a leaner state, your body is more primed to make more use of those extra calories for muscle synthesis, rather than storing them as fat when you're doing regular resistance training. Nutrient partitioning becomes more favorable the leaner you get. This means the extra calories you consume are more likely to be used for muscle growth and repair than fat storage. Hence, a man with 10% body fat can afford to have a larger caloric surplus than someone with a higher body fat percentage without significantly risking excessive fat gain. Step number 3, macros. The reason we need to calculate macros is that when you're aiming for weight loss, you need to prioritize just not shedding fat, but also preserving muscle mass. We will come back to this main subject, muscle protein synthesis, which is how muscle growth happens. After you train and muscle protein synthesis is activated, all that mainly is required to build muscle after the workout is amino acids, the building blocks of your muscle cells, and you get that from eating protein. While the calorie count undeniably influences the baseline of muscle protein synthesis, the amount and the quality of the protein you eat plays a more pivotal role in muscle protein synthesis than just the caloric number. The common misconception here is that muscle building requires a caloric surplus, but in reality, even during a caloric deficit, muscle protein synthesis can still be activated, but of course, it's activated to a lesser degree when you're building less muscle. You don't need this massive meal to boost your muscle protein synthesis following a strength training session. Protein, like whey protein shakes, is sufficient to flip the switch on and start building muscle. Creating a positive protein balance, this is the way we increase your lean muscle mass following a workout, even though you don't eat enough for a calorie balance. So how much protein to intake? A protein intake of roughly 0.72 grams of protein to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight is recommended when you're weightlifting. That means if you're 200 pounds, you need to take in the range of 144 to 200 grams of protein a day. But which to stick to depends on whether or not you're in a caloric deficit. The greater the deficit, the more protein you need to stick to the upper end. I personally recommend as high as going to 1.3 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight if you're in a larger deficit at 20%. This way, you'll be losing fat and maintaining or gaining muscle simultaneously. Consider this example. If you're 200 pounds, you need to take roughly 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight and 2,500 calories per day to be in a 10% deficit. This will be your daily macros. 200 grams of protein per day equals 800 calories. So that's 800 out of 2,500. I recommend you take 20% of your calorie coming from fat when you're trying to lose fat. This is 500 calories from fat, so that's 1,300 out of 2,500. The rest can come from your carbs, which is 1,200 calories. Step number 4 is recovery and sleep. It is the most underrated, but the most important step. It's almost like the missing piece in the puzzle for most people. Imagine you're working hard, you're dieting, training, but one thing throws your results off entirely. It's your sleep. In a fascinating 2018 study led by Wang and his team, participating in a caloric restricted diet, they're divided into 2 groups for a duration of 8 weeks. One group enjoyed a full night's rest, while the other group slept 1 hour less for only 5 nights every week. Now here comes the shocker. While both groups lost the same amount of weight, the sleep-deprived group lost 85% muscle mass, while the well-rested folks dropped 83% of pure fat. If you're aiming for that lean look, your pillow time is just as crucial as your diet. The The general guideline of adults is to sleep between 7 to 9 hours a night. Make sure you prioritize your sleep as much as your workout. Let's talk about supplements. While 4 steps I mentioned are the primary factors in body recomposition journey, supplements can provide that extra nudge to optimize your results. To simplify things, let's zoom into 2 tried and true aid methods: protein and creatine. Whey protein. It's a high quality complete protein, meaning it has all of the 9 essential amino acids that your body needs, which makes it ideal to choose as a post-workout when your muscles are primed to absorb your nutrients. I usually recommend this for those people who aren't able to meet their daily protein intake through food only. And we have creatine. It's one of the safest and most effective supplements out there. It can enhance your performance, especially in activities that require quick bursts of energy like lifting, weights, or sprinting. Over time, this can lead to a better workout performance and potentially greater muscle gain. Going into a journey of body recomposition requires hard work and dedication and consistency, but it's also possible for both beginners and experienced trainers. However, the timeline is a crucial determinant and it could be a slow journey. The longer the time, the easier it is to get to do both things at the same time. Within this time frame, one could typically alternate between muscle growth phases and fat loss periods depending on their body fat percentage. It's essential to note though that during a caloric deficit, the body's capacity to recover from high intensity workouts may be diminished, but this shouldn't deter anyone from their goals. And I hope you've enjoyed this video and it's given you a clear picture of who's able to build muscle and lose fat in my own experience with the people that I work with. And if you're watching this channel, most of you that are in 25% and above, you actually fall in the category when you can see both. And the same is for suboptimal trainees. If you're watching this video, it's very likely that you're looking for ways to be able to do this, and it is very possible. Now, in my own experience, it is much better doing it with a coach who knows what they're doing. Instead of going through the circle or a yo-yo, you can rather find and work with someone who will give you a direct path and will get you a result that will typically take you 1 to 2 years and 4 months. If that's you and you finally want to be able to achieve both, you want it guaranteed, I highly recommend that you apply for coaching with me. It's in the link in the description. If you want more information about what I do, search sculptbyscience.com. If you did enjoy the video, leave the video the like. And these 2 videos are amazing, talking about what you should eat, building muscle and losing fat, but I'll leave it here and I'll see you in the next one.